My mom said, just breathe. So, as Regina mentioned, I'm Kathryn Ragains-Wilson, and I was sent an email by Joe Call Me that suggested that I possibly stand up here and speak in August on self-care. And immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like one of my top 3 best, favorite subjects, behind chickens and, all the things my husband's gonna do and has done. So, but the moment I send, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I just done? I do make a living talking, but it's in sales, and sales is very different. For me, sales is 75% listening. And if I just sat up here and listened, it'd be kind of awkward, I think, here. So I thought I'd start, before I call it set the table, before I kind of tell you the journey, I wanted to just read another quote that I found kind of nice. It's called Uncommon Advice. If you don't know what to pursue in life right now, pursue yourself. Pursue becoming the healthiest, happiest, most healed, most present, most confident version of yourself. Then the right path will reveal itself. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here, getting in your car and making the drive, and a lot of you could have stayed home, and I appreciate all those that are on the interweb, like G likes to say, listening. And I take this gift of presence very seriously. So when Joe asked me, the reason for my yes was based on just completing a week-long, it was called the Weekless Challenge, and it was a gentleman by the name of Jason Seib. He lives in Seattle, and his work is helping everyone expand their comfort zone. And he, especially, I think, in Western civilization, we're trying to make our comfort zone small. And I find, for me, my true growth is pushing that and pushing outward. And the idea of public speaking is definitely outside of my comfort zone. So it was a resounding yes, then, okay, then what? So my journey in self-care was in my mid-30s. It was in the late 90s. And I had just gotten out of the second 5-year relationship with another individual that wasn't a good fit. And I was financially just in I don't want to say dark place, but it was very shadowed. And I was working 3 jobs. I worked at Dreamers Furniture and at Straight Commission, living downtown Marshall, walking to work, and Marshall's like Mayberry. So I lived above a dance studio, and I would walk to Marshall, and I would help people pick out furniture. I loved that job, but it was really meant for people that don't have to work for a living. And that wasn't my lot at that point. And I also helped at the Eaton Proving Grounds. So they have a hotel, where people from all over the U.S., and the Eaton's Proving Ground is, they make truck parts. So people from all over the world would come and stay the night, and then I would make the beds and feed them breakfast. So that was my first gig. And then after Dreamers, I would clean offices. And even with all of that activity and working more than 40 hours a week, I was barely making it. There would be days I would come home and it was like, okay, the light switch, is there going to be lights today? Or do I still have a phone? This is before, of course, cell phones. And it was, even some points, I had coworkers bringing in bottles because I couldn't afford the gas to get to, if they needed me to help the Galesburg. It's okay if I was walking to work, but if I had to go to the Galesburg Dreamers. So I would return bottles to get gas. And just really struggling emotionally and just spiritually, not feeding my body healthily. I would take one Ramen noodle packet. I'd cut it in half, and one half was lunch and one half was dinner. And I used like tuna as my protein and peas. So I was like, I'm getting veggies. But I loved that I was no longer in those relationships that I felt stuck in. So I knew that there was hope. And this was the time, I don't know if any of you remember hearing the book Simple Abundance. It was a woman by the name of Sarah Van Branken, and she became very well known and was on Oprah like 5 or 6 times. And she had written a 365-day daily read, and there were things to think about, some activities. And I don't know if the activity of taking a piece of paper and, making 4 quadrants and writing where you are now, where you want to be in a year, 5 years, or 10 years came from that book. But I did that activity. And I wrote where I was, and then on this list I had I want a husband. Like it was a list that you check. Got husband. I know I wanted a new car because the car that I had wasn't working, hence the reason why I was glad I could walk to work. And then I just folded it up and just put it away. I did the activity, but with no hopes of anything of it coming true. And through all of that pain, and I started to read, and I hadn't done any reading at all since college. I was an English major, and I was an English major because I knew I didn't like math. So it was like, okay, not math, let's read. But I never liked to read. I have a very mild form of dyslexia, so reading was hard, and I was reading USA Despacito and Great Gatsby, and it was just... So with the help of my mom, typing papers, my dad proofing every paper that left my hands, and I was able to graduate from Michigan State with a bachelor's, but I had stopped reading. And so during the late 90s, I started reading Women Who Love Too Much. And that really helped me understand of my choices that I was making. And I started looking more inward. And that focus of getting curious of how I made those choices, and then I can get unstuck, was real exciting. And the more I read and the more I asked people what they were doing to handle budgets, and how do you eke through, how do you stop eking through is what I felt like I was doing. So in that whole transition, I had a dear friend. She was a customer first, and then we became good friends. Her name was Terry, and she lived in this awesome house in Marshall, like the houses that would be on a home tour. And she lived the life that I wanted. She had an incredibly husband that cherished her. She had great kids, and she was very successful as a manager of a branch, a national city bank. And one of these bleak days, I had a garbage bag full of bills because I just didn't open them. And it was probably 2 or 3 months full of bills. So I go to her house with this bag of bills, and I'm sitting at this dining room table, and she's got milk and cookies for me. So I'm just like, after school, I've got my milk and cookies and these beautiful home magazines, and I'm just flipping through them, just wanting to live in that space. In the meantime, she's across from me, and she is no judgment, she's just opening each bill, and she's writing things down. And it was probably, 40 minutes. She gets done, and she said, okay, you have 2 choices. You can get a 4th job, or you can get 1 real job. And we talked about what the one real job would look like, and it meant, updating a resume and making it really show what I was capable of. And within a month, I had a real job. And I was working for Herman Miller and working out of the Kalamazoo office. And a month after that, I met my husband, Patrick. And unbeknownst to me, this list that was put away was just being checked off. And I knew there was something to that curiosity of taking care of self first. So I decided to kind of really keep continuing to lean into that. So I continue reading. I continued just being present and looking at the simplest things in joy. I started doing a lot of journaling at the time. I journal now, I still do a journal. And I came up with what I have is like these 8 categories, and there are 8 pillars to myself. And where I have landed is one of the pillars is career and financial abundance, community and being of service. Number 3, heavenly home and environment. I call our house heavenly home, but it's just the home and space in which you reside, and environment. Travel and experiences, health and wellness, family, friends, and marriage, intimacy, and the last one is spiritual growth and learning. So it seems like a lot. And I'm currently reading a book called The 5 Types of Wealth by Cyan Bloom, and it really comes down to, if you shake those 8, it comes down to time, people, purpose, health. I've just gotten a little more granular on my 8, but it's those 4 that I really think of self-care can be in that space. I use those pillars in my vision boards. So my vision boards often have distinct areas in which I'm cutting out pictures or quotes that are what I'm leaning into in the next several years. I use those pillars when my husband and I sit down and we do planning of like, what does our next year look like? How do we want to do retirement? And because the more clarity I've found that I have, it's just easier to put action behind that. I heard from Simon Sinek yesterday. He just said, self-care is not an outcome. Self-care is the process and the continued process. There's no made it, period. It's a continued evolution. And I know that self-care isn't just when it's convenient, when I'm in the mood. It is what do we really want to achieve? And we need to move outside of our comfort zone and push on and lean into discomfort, because the good stuff's always on the other side of that. What I've found is the more I could make a routine and make it more into a ritual, then I'm more apt to be consistent, because consistency sometimes is difficult. So my current ritual is I do get up between 5 and 5:15 every morning, and I start with, I have an app on my phone called the Calm app, and it's meditations, it's sleep stories, it's master classes. So I listen to my meditation, a self-guided meditation. I then read from my daily reader, and then I read 4 to 5, sometimes 10 pages of, now I'm reading the 5 types of wealth, so that changes. I then it's important for me to move and have movement. So I'm either downstairs in my gym where I have a little trampoline, and I trampoline and I to one of my songs, or I take my dog out to the lake, and she gets to hang out in the water, and I've been known to have an earbud in so no one can hear the music, but I am like dancing as if no one's watching. But just the other day a fisherman was, but I was okay with that. So and then before I leave, I get dressed to go to work, or I start my day. I have this ritual, and it's from Mel Robbins, and it's called the High Five Habit. She actually wrote a book. But you stand there in front of the mirror and you just give yourself a high five. And I do that on my way out. There's a mirror in the entryway, and I'm like, you got this. Whatever this is, you got it. I've always struggled with an evening routine, and the more I read, the more I realize it's really important to kind of shut down your day and have some structure to that. And so what I'm doing is I'm starting with face care. I've never done that. I've gone to sleep with my makeup on. I mean, but I thought, no, my Grandma Dorothy, my mom's mom, she used to sit at her little dressing table, and every single night she'd have her nightie on, and she would be using Deep Magic was the brand, and it was just like a face cream that she would just put on, and you would see her when you'd walk by, or sometimes you'd sit on the edge of the bed and you just chat about your day. I had the fortunate experience to stay with her when I was going to Lansing Community College, and so I would stay at her place instead of driving home all the time because her house was closer to the campus. And I just thought that it was her way of just winding down in preparation for the next day. So I do the face thing, I wash, and I do some more reading. I end the day with the Calm app, and it's helping kind of get me to sleep. For years, I struggled with serious insomnia. I can get to sleep, but I couldn't stay sleeping. And since really focusing on my self-care, I'm really getting some great sleep. And that's important. Sleep is so essential for just your well-being. I thought it'd be kind of fun to share what my prompts are for journaling. So I thought I just wrote down how I kind of think about the day. The first thing I do is I write where I am, like where am I writing this? So right now I call it the deck excellence, and it's the deck my husband made. So I sit on the deck, and it's dark, so I had bought a little reading light, an LED light that I can write to. I write, the second one is, how am I feeling to start the day? Today was a bit anxious, gonna be in the pulpit. But I was excited as well. Then my third prompt is C, and C stands for seeing excellence every day. And so I reflect on the day prior, and what did I do that was excellent? To remind ourselves that even the small things, there's excellence that we're doing, and we're sharing with others. And then I do, who am I sending prayers to? This first of the year, and I had a lot of dear friends lose children unexpectedly, so sometimes I'm just writing people's names. We had some friends over, and she's, has 3 more months, and she's giving birth to a baby, so her name was going down today, just as a reminder of her to have a safe pregnancy. Then I do my favorite is the daily gratitude. So I just data dump all the things that I'm grateful for. Because I think there's a saying that you can't be anxious if you're in gratitude. So that's been helpful for me. The other thing is, how am I going to show up for others? So sometimes I will call out what I plan to do differently or who in my office could use a note, or I have these little note cards that have values on them because we have these 6 values. Do the right thing, healthy as a whole, and then I've added these little pom-poms because I'm like, they're like warm fuzzies. So I just sent a warm fuzzy to the owner because his birthday is this week. Then I write my 3 E's. My 3 E's are the 3 things I'm excited about for the day. So if I'm struggling with that, like I'm thinking, I don't know about 3, I always put OOTD, and that stands for outfit of the day. What is my outfit of the day going to be? I can get excited about that. Today's outfit is actually my wedding dress. So I thought, let's pull out the big guns. I was standing in front of a lot of people that day too. I also have another one of my prompt is a memory, and that's from Judy Housestuff. I never had done that before, but I write a real great memory that I had from the day before. So I have kind of a journal, and I can look back and pick those memories out. I do write notes to people almost every day. So who am I going to send a note to? In the mail. And then my last thing is dreams. The quote is, dreams come true with one action at a time. And this is where I take those 8 pillars and then I move them to like 3 or 4 focuses for the day. So financial fitness decisions, health and wellness decisions, parenting, love and kindness. How do I want to be with my son? And then work success. It seems like a lot, but it's not. It's become where I need to do that to get my day started. There are days that I just have one-liners because, for whatever reason, there are other things I want to do, or I want to walk longer with my dog, so I have a time commitment because I do have a full-time job that I have to go to. But it's just a daily reminder that as long as I'm taking care of this, I know I'll be more effective with others. A couple other things, because self-care doesn't have to be grand, and I've accumulated other kind of rituals. I have a birthday ritual. I always take my birthday off from work if it's on a work day, and I get up, and before putting my clothes on, this exercise came from G sharing an experience that she had at a retreat years ago. I heard her when I think she was either in Ada, and she was being recorded on a sermon, or Douglas when she was preaching in Douglas. But where you stand in front of a mirror before you get dressed and you just love on yourself. And you just think if you saw this person walking on a street, you would send that person love. So I do that first, then I get on my workout clothes. I take the dog for a walk to the cemetery because it's just gratitude. I'm on this side of the grass this year. And then I come back and then I get in a kayak because I live at Gordneck Lake, and I take my backpack with my birthday journal. It's a separate journal that is just that I write in on my birthday. And then I kayak across the lake, and sometimes I'll sit in the kayak or I'll get out into the state park. Prairie View State Park Prairie View County Park is right there. And I will write a love letter to myself. And it's about how I made another year. And just being grateful sometimes that, my hair grows. And there's a lot of people that have so many challenges. And the simplest things that I had meniscus surgery years ago, and I'm amazed my other knee has not needed surgery. And I walk the same. So I never understood that one knee can always be worse than the other. But I'm grateful for that. So I spend sometimes an hour and a half just writing. It's free thought. And then I just come back and, the rest of the day is just relaxed with no agenda, no to-dos. And that's what I've done for birthdays. The only other thing that I've done that I've really enjoyed doing over the last 10 years is I write a manifesto January 1st. And each one of those pillars is several pages. I read the year before, I look at all the things that I wanted to accomplish, if I did, and then I just start the next year. And I just love it. So it's reflection and also dreaming, and vision and planning, and it's just a great exercise. So in closing, it's just, I love the idea of self-care because it worked for me. I am where I am today, and I am constantly reminded that it was me getting still and not being angry, but giving myself grace that, yeah, I made those choices, I made some decisions, but I get to make new ones. And I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to just share kind of, what I do on a daily basis, yearly basis. And I'm going to end with this short little quote that I wasn't going to do, but my mom really liked it. I've been told my whole life that I'm a lot. Kat, you're a lot. And it's never been positive. I mean, they're not saying that as a positive. The current job, the only reason I have the current job is because the gal that was interviewing me, named Chloe, understood what that a lot was. And she had to convince others that, yeah, she is a lot, but she's what we need to get sales where they need to go. So I found this quote, I just love it. It says, yeah, I'm a lot of personality, a lot of emotions, a lot of ambition, a lot of adventure, a lot of laughter, with a lot of love to give. Thank you.